It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not even about us. It's about legacy. It's about what we choose to leave behind for future generations. And that's why, for the next year, and for the first time since 1974, the best and brightest men and women of nations and corporations the world over will pool their resources, share their collective vision to leave behind a brighter future. It's not about us. Therefore, what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, is welcome back.
The work of a single organization, the Syndicate. A rogue nation, trained to do what we do, imbued with a new sense of purpose.
The Syndicate, you say? Yes, sir. That's what he calls it.
You may not recognize this humble man, but there's a good chance he played a role in saving your life or the life of someone you know. Earl Bakken and Medtronic, the company he co-founded more than 65 years ago, may be most well known for inventing the first battery-operated, wearable external pacemaker. But that life-saving device would be only the first of many technologies and therapies Medtronic would develop in the years to come.
Earl Bakken not only invented the pacemaker, he really invented an industry. If you think about the technologies that have flowed from that invention, he's changed the face of modern medicine. Millions of patients have benefited from those technologies.
Earl Elmer Bakken was born to Florence and Oswald Bakken on January 10, 1924. From an early age, Earl was fascinated with electricity, and his parents encouraged his exploration. In 1949, Earl Bakken founded Medtronic with his brother-in-law in a 600-square-foot garage in Minneapolis. At first, the company was simply a repair and service shop for electronic equipment used in hospitals.
They were using a pacemaker that was huge, moved around on a cart and plugged into AC on the wall. And one time, there was a blackout. A youngster who had just had heart surgery died. This well-known doctor, Dr. Lillihei, came to Earl and asked him if he would make a pacemaker that didn't plug into the wall. So Earl went back and thought about what he had asked him to make. Earl went back to the University Hospital to see how it was going. He saw his pacemaker was attached to a little boy. And the pacemaker worked great.
Today, Medtronic inventions, innovations, and devices improve a life every 3 seconds. The company's devices and medical therapies helped 10 million people last year alone.
My first symptoms really started in 1972. I was active as a house painter and I was teaching and so forth, and I had episodes where I was not feeling well at all. They established that I did have a irregular heart rate, but the short story is March 13th of 1973, at age 34 and a half, I received my first pacemaker. I am right now on my 7th pacemaker. I was 34 and a half at that time. I am 76 now, which means I have lived over half my life with a pacemaker. This represents 40 and a half years of my life, starting in 1973 and coming up to January of this year. I was thinking that if it were not for Earl Bakken and his vision, and now the wonderful company of Medtronic, I would not be around to enjoy my family. I live in the present. I am grandpa to my grandkids, and I'm not a fading picture in a photo album.
Earl served as Medtronic's chief executive officer and chairman from the company's incorporation in 1957 until 1976. He was senior chairman of the board through 1989 and retired from the board in 1994. Thanks to Earl's vision and leadership, Medtronic has grown into the largest medical technology company in the world, employing 49,000 people with a global reach of more than 140 countries. The company's technologies and devices treat more than 40 medical conditions.
Back in the early 60s, Earl sat down and designed his 100-year strategic plan for Medtronic. Think about that. Everyone was doing 3-year, 1-year, 5-year plans. Earl does a 100-year plan. And he draws a picture of the human body. And it shows all the different places and body organs where implantable devices can be used. You know, the interesting thing about that plan is that 50 years later, the company's halfway there.
The vision that Earl had for the future is really encompassed by the mission that he stated for Medtronic, which is to use biomedical engineering to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. And he really meant that. He had all kinds of ideas, and he called it the 100-year plan, through which he would come out with innovations and implants that would cover virtually every part of the human body. So that's a big piece of the vision that Earl had for the future. And a lot of those, when he came out with it, were seemingly very far-fetched. But yet many of them have already become reality.
Are you obsessed with details?
Absolutely. And I think that's why we're a great team, because...
I'm not.
You're not?
No, he is so great at vision and coming up with great ideas that move things, and you think, oh, God, I wish I'd thought of that. But I'm really good at, doing this and kind of, executing. And so and I get nervous about kind of looking that far ahead. And Andy gets bored, looking down at his feet.
I can only measure a handle length 16 times.
Lisa, I think 3 of the other patterns that I might be missing.
Kate and Andy may bring different skills to the business, but they speak in one voice when describing their brand.
This represents everything that we need represented. And Kate Spade is Kate. Kate grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. She brings a lot of tradition to it. I think there's a lot of classicism to what it is. Color is obviously something she's done since the beginning. So that's what makes it not just a classic.
Right.
It's a classic with a lot
distorted
of
classics.
Fun to it.
Because I think there are a lot of classics out there, and I think, I don't necessarily want another just basic one. And if so, I already own it. So in order to make it a little more interesting, I think you have to distort it a little and make it new.
Novel, yeah.
Yeah, a little more novel and interesting. And then this little heel was inspired from the perfume bottle, where you kind of think, oh, I have to have that. I just have to have that. I don't know if I need it, but I have to have
Something about it.
But long before there was a brand, there was a girl, Kate Brosnahan of Kansas City, Missouri, the 5th child in a family of 6, part girl next door, part glamour puss.
I really did like fashion, and I really thought I was very innovative. So my mother was actually very good in encouraging me to dress however I wanted. I mean, my sisters would sometimes think, oh my God, you let her buy that fuzzy leopard coat at that vintage store, And I thought, of course, I looked like Audrey Hepburn in this coat,
Did you have fashion role models in your family, in your community?
My mother was one. I mean, I thought she dressed beautifully, and she also really, again, loved it. I mean, you watch her get dressed, and, she really did like it a lot. And I just thought, oh, and I just remember kind of watching thinking, I can't wait till I can do that. I want to paint my nails, I want to wear lipstick, I want to put my hair up in a hairdo, hence the hairdo. I don't think I thought I'd be in fashion, though.
Now, what did you think you'd be when you grew up?
Journalism. Actually, I never even thought I'd be you. I thought I'd be Holly Hunter from Broadcast News. Behind the scenes, running around really fast, paying attention to you know, what it needed to get done. And that's what I thought. I mean, I don't think I
You're a
imagined.
producer.
I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I'm going to be a designer.
Hi, I'm Dolly Parton, and I thought it might be nice for a change for the guest on the show to introduce the host. So, without further ado, here's Ronnie.
Thank you. Hey, now it's here to go again. What are you going to get from? I bid you 25. Will you give me 30? Will you make it 30 bid of fun with $30? Would you give me 35? I make a 40 bid of fun for $1. Put it 5. There was a boy in Arkansas who would listen to his mom when she told him he had to go to school. He'd take a walk in the afternoon, just follow him. Pretty soon you'd find a man of an auction barn. He stand and listen carefully, and pretty soon he began to see how the auctioneer talks so rapidly. Oh me, oh my, it's do or die. I've got to learn that auction cry. Gotta make my mark and be an auctioneer. $25 bid now, $30, 30. Would you give me 30? Make it 30 bid now, $30. Would you give me 30? Would you give me $30 B? $30 bidder now, 35. Would you give me 35 to make it 35? Bidder, 35. Would you bidder that $35 bid? Let me pick one now. Yeah. So from the boy who went to school, there grew a man who played it cool. Now he came home a full-fledged auctioneer. Yeah, people came from miles around just to hear him make that rhythmic sound that filled the hearts with such a happy cheer. Then his face spread out from shore to shore. He had all to do and maybe more. Had to buy a plane to get around. Oh, now he's topsing all the land. Let's pause to give that man a hand. He's the best hillbilly auctioneer. Everybody now. $25 bidder now, $30, 30. Would you give me 30? Make it 30 bidder. $30. Would you give me 30? Would you give me? Hold it. No. Does anybody understand what I'm talking about? No! Well, we're going to slow it up just a little bit, down to about Dean Martin's speed, about 33 1/5. $25 bidder now, $30, 30. Will you give me 30? Make it 30 in the form of $30. Will you give me 30? Will you give me $30 bid? You understand it now? Yeah! All right, we'll speed it up. $30 bidder now, 35. Will you give me 35 to make it 35? A bid at 35. Will you bidder that $35 bid? Get it on! $35 bidder now, $40, 40. Will you give me 40? Make it 40 in the farm, $40. Will you give me 40? Who to give me $40 bid? Fast! $40 bidder now, 45. Will you give me 45 to make it 45? And then 45. Will you bidder that $45 bid? Let's change gears. $45 bidder now, $50 bidder. Will you give me 50? Make it 50 in the farm, $50. Will you give me 50? Who to give me $50 bid? Yeah, $50 bidder now, 55. Will you give me 55 to make it 55? 55. So now for a $55 bid. Hey, but all right, throw open the gate and shoot him through. What you gonna give me, Palm? I bid at 25. Will you give me 30? Will you make it 30 bid in the form of $30? Will you give me 35? I make it 40 bid in the form of $4. Would you put 5? Yeah.
Tonight, Man Alive takes you to the very beginnings of the universe. A portrait of a remarkable man, Cambridge cosmologist Dr. Stephen Hawking. Professor Stephen Hawking is throwing a get-together. It will last for 3 weeks during this Cambridge summer, and will be attended by some 40 scientists from all over the world. They'll be talking about some wonderful things in mathematical languages that are far too complicated for you and me to understand. But the reverberations of what they'll be discussing will shake the very foundations of our beliefs.
don't think physics has much contact with mysticism. Physics aims to find a rational model for the universe. And mysticism aims to describe the universe basically as a mystery. I think, in a way, physics has been a progress away from mysticism towards a rational understanding of the universe.
His field is cosmology, the study of the entire universe. As Stephen Hawking's body grows weaker, his mind soars. He wants to know nothing less than what happened at the very instant that time began. He has recently made a theoretical proposal that could have far-reaching religious and philosophical consequences.
For if Stephen Hawking is right, the universe cannot have been created by God or by anything else. With all its grandeur and wonder, it simply and unutterably is.
Well, I often say to my friends that I think he's the greatest expert on gravity since Einstein.
I think he's one of the great researchers in the world at the present time.
It's a very strange situation because on the one hand there is the fame and the brilliance and the excitement and the success, and yet on the other hand, if the next morning after some award-winning ceremony the nurses don't turn up, well then you're sunk just the same as any other disabled person in that situation would be.
At the end of Stephen Hawking's favorite opera, the Palace of the Gods is destroyed, their power over men broken. Wagner's Ring of the Nibelung celebrates the supremacy of nature. While on one hand it would be easy to understand why a physicist would be attracted to this theme, it's a little more difficult in this case. For on the surface, nature has not looked kindly on Stephen Hawking. For 20 years, he suffered from the progressive muscular disorder known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Remarkably, he's still alive. Lou Gehrig's disease usually kills within 3 years. As it is, he's capable of just the slightest movements, enough to control a joystick. His speech can be understood by only a handful of people. Yet, with such devastating handicaps, he continues to be a leader in his field. He's won a Nobel Prize and recently completed a round-the-world lecture tour. Stephen Hawking astonishes everybody who knows him.
I was a bit frightened to talk to him.
Raymond Laflamme is from Quebec City. Like Stephen's other postgraduate students, he had to come to grips with the communications problem.
It's difficult to see his expression when you see him for the first time. After a while, you understand things, but at the beginning, you have the impression that it's like a wall without any emotion. After a bit of time, you see that there's a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings.
Stephen, when did you first realize you wanted to be a physicist?
I think I knew from about the age of 9 or 10 that I wanted to be a scientist. Most of my activities, like playing with model fireworks, or model railways, or playing complicated games, was aimed in some way at finding out how the world worked around me.
So in a sense, you went from modeling planes to modeling the universe.
I was never very good with my hands, so my models did not work very well. But I was always interested in models that I could control. And I think that nowadays I have translated that into studying physics. Because in a way, if you understand the universe, then you have control of it.
Well, he's first and foremost a very determined person. And I think determination in his circumstances is a great quality. Sometimes, of course, I view it as sheer obstinacy, but on the whole, it's his determination that's kept him going. It's his determination which has fueled his courage, and has made him do the most extraordinary things. Made him overcompensate for his condition, made him go off on his travels around the world, drive his wheelchair on the Great Wall of China, and still maintain the lead in whatever branch of physics he chooses to indulge in.
The Department of Mathematics and Theoretical Physics is housed in a creaking old building that was once the Cambridge University Press. T and differential equations seem to share table space about equally. Hawking has about half a dozen postgraduate students working with him at any given time. They take turns assisting him with his work and helping him about. Today, that means getting extra food for Stephen's lunchtime lecture, because some of his conference guests have begun to arrive early.
Okay, we'll get plenty. You can always save it.
But I thought that most people are rather ill-informed about ghosts. So I want to tell you what they are, and why you need not be afraid of them. I'm going to talk about the ghosts that arise in high derivative theories, particularly in gravitational theories.
The other side of Stephen's life is his family. He and Jane have 3 children, 2 teenagers and the baby of the family, 6-year-old Timmy.
I think the physics and the family are the 2 great aspects of Stephen's existence. And I don't think you can actually dissociate the one from the other, and you can't say that one's more important than the other, because it's the 2 of them that keep him going. When Robert was a baby, Robert's now 18, Stephen could actually walk with a stick, and now, of course, he's completely dependent on the wheelchair. He can't walk at all. It's only retrospectively that one can register the change.
This afternoon, 3 of Stephen's conference guests are visiting the family. Old friends from places as diverse as Penn State, Edmonton, and Moscow. Jane Hawking finds most physicists dull company, but old friends can be teased into a bit of cricket.
I could have caught that if I realized it was going to stop.
I think being married to a physicist is a very difficult occupation anyhow, because I think physicists tend to lock themselves in ivory towers, and they have their jargon to protect themselves with. And so I think they can form very exclusive relationships with each other, where outsiders can find no chink for admission, if you like. They can find no way in. And so I think it's quite an art to keep one's head above water when one's dealing with physicists.
That's where I mean.
Well done. Almost. I noticed that you got them all up playing cricket when their rate of physical activity is obviously...
It was nil.
Get it up in the tree.
But I think they actually enjoyed it when we got them doing it.
Oh. In physics, the theory is good if it accurately describes present observations and makes definite predictions about future ones. It allows us to control our environment. Because of this, successful theoretical models always have profound implications for how we look at the world. They change the nature of our common sense. The 20th century has seen the development of two monumental achievements of this sort: relativity and quantum mechanics.